Hello, everybody. Welcome along. This is the Benjamin Bloom Show here on Tuesday, talking the latest football stories. Plenty of stuff in the football news today to discuss. So please do let me know that you're here, that you're watching, by either getting involved in the comments or hitting that thumbs up button to support this stream. Plenty of stuff going on today. Like I said, we are going to be talking Woodgate out, Warnock in at Boro. We'll be talking about that Burnley banner controversy, the banner that flew above the Etihad yesterday. We've got Nathan Ferguson finally wanted to leave West Brom, I think, in January, but it looks like he is off. The contract is done there. And we'll have a quick little think about a couple of brilliant League Two playoff games last night. Do come and say hello if you are in the comments. You can see where this is going to go. T Trotter says, what's wrong with the banner? I haven't said anything about the banner, right or wrong, yet. So hold your horses. We'll talk about that second. Matthew says the old goat has returned. He's talking Warnock, isn't he? And Jalay me a question straight away. If and when grounds open with a 1 metre rule, you could hit your average. I assume he means for attendances per season. Be nice, wouldn't it? Let's talk, before I talk about one of my least favourite subjects, let's talk about one of my favourite subjects. Neil Warnock is back and back in the Championship. Anyone who's watched the channel will know that I am unapologetically a fan of Neil Warnock. I find him very entertaining, and I do genuinely think it's important to have tactical diversity in leagues. I don't want to see everyone playing the same way. Well, it never happens anyway, because someone will always come up with the opposite style. So I like having people like Neil Warnock around. He is back at Middlesbrough. Did do a video on this earlier in my car, but I can talk at more length about this. Now, let's just quickly talk about the outgoing manager, which was Jonathan Woodgate. Steve Gibson giving him a chance there. He'd been on the coaching staff there. He'd been a player at Boro. Obviously, when Tony Pulis went, the parachute payments were up. Maybe, I said earlier, other than Assombalonga, maybe Fletcher as well, all of the big signings have kind of been pushed on. Flint went in the summer, didn't he, as well? And Woodgate got a go at Boro as a first-time job, and it's been a difficult job, hasn't it? You always hard to go to follow a pragmatist like a Pulis or a McCarthy or a Bruce. We often see people fail after those type of managers. Woodgate's first go following Pulis in the Championship, which in and of itself is a bit of a nightmare, whether it's your first job or your fifth job or your 16th in Warnock's case. And obviously lack of parachute money not helping either. Boro very much on a reset in terms of their expectations. Woodgate didn't really make a great fist of it, to be honest. I think he would have got next season if they'd just been, even just around lower mid-table, but it's been outside the bottom three. Nice run over Christmas and a little surge away there, including that great win at West Brom, but back down, teetering on the edge. And they haven't been helped by the fact that the bottom 4-5, the standard's actually been quite high since probably New Year, actually. Luton have had little winning splurges. Barnsley have. Wigan have been ridiculous. Huddersfield have won games and Stoke have won games. That has raised the tide, which has sucked Boro back down into it. Remember, just before lockdown, they beat Charlton to come out of the bottom three. Straight back in on Saturday. First half collapse, 3-0. Steve Gibson's probably looked at it and gone, no, too close for comfort, and I'm going to go for Warnock. Let me know in your comments what you think of the job Woodgate did there. Whether or not, I know Robbie Keane was working closely with him, whether any of those guys will be kept on there. What would have been par for Boro this season? Maybe par changes now. So Warnock is in 72 in December, Neil Warnock, but looks fit and healthy, as one of the comments on the YouTube video said earlier. We know what we're going to get style-wise. We know defenders head it, kick it, clear it, don't mess around. We know long throw-ins will go in the box. We know we hit the front man. But we also know with Warnock that if there are flair players there, they will be trusted to do their thing, to dribble, to have shots from outside of the box. Warnock always says, people say my style is dour, but we get lots of shots on goal. We get attacks. Okay, they might be short attacks, 3 or 4 seconds. But what does the stat say? Most goals are scored from less than 3 passes or something ridiculous like that. Anyway, so I think there's many ways to skin a cat. And if Warnock's style is promoted just off the back end of their expiring parachute money, didn't have a lot of it to spend. So, look, I'm pleased to see Warnock back. The resounding thought from people who I've spoken to about it today has been, oh, well, Boro are safe then, aren't they? Because, he'll tighten them up. He'll get them taking no risks at the back. He will create chances. He'll create high percentage chances, maybe from long throw-ins, maybe from set plays, maybe from long balls. I'm sure Rudy Gestead will get used, but he will do the job there. Let's flash up the comments and see what you guys have got to say. Taxman says, afternoon, Mr. Bloom. Afternoon, Taxman, unless you are actually the Taxman. In which case, I pay you all due respect, Mr. Taxman, and you will get my money every, right at the end of January, knowing me. But Noel says, hi, Ben, at least Mr. Warnock is now at the picture for the Blues job. Didn't want him at Birmingham there. Noel, Dan, hello, Dan, says, didn't take long for Colin to get a new job. Of course not. Ewan says, I'm not going to read it because I don't want to get demonetised. The ultimate something has returned. Noel says, 1 win in 12, was it, Mr. Woodgate? Craig, Boro didn't hold off, only out of the drop zone on goal difference. The only man for the job. Enter Warnock. What does that say on there? At Newton TV. Looks like Aston Villa, where Craig is coming from there. Matthew says the signs on Woodgate were there for months. Not surprised. Bailey says, any chance Warnock can't get them out and they go down? Oh, my God, that would put him against Ipswich again next season, wouldn't it? Or is that out of the question with his pedigree? You would think that's out of the question with his pedigree as well. And looking at the table as well, you'd still need Luton and Barnsley to score probably 7 points across 4 games to even make a challenge involving more than one team. It looks like Charlton, Hull, Boro. You never know. Surely Wigan can't keep winning right through to the rest of the season. Stoke and Huddersfield's still in it, so there is plenty there. Taxman says, Borough still in a dogfight, no matter who's the manager. Yeah, fair comment, fair comment. Animation agrees with me. Gestead up front, get him up there. What's Gary Medina up to at the moment? Where is Gary Medina? Blackpool? Nick says, maybe it's harsh to sack Woodgate under the circumstances. I think Steve Gibson... he's generally regarded as a pretty sensible chairman, isn't he? I think he waits and takes a view, and same as he did on Monk, although he went quite early on Monk, but he's obviously scared. Matthew says Warnock won't get relegated. I promise you. Taxman says, definitely not an employee of HMRC. Hey, can I have one of those self-employed grants if you are? Dear oh me. Right, so Warnock is back. If you're watching on delay, get your thoughts in on Colin. He doesn't like being called that. The great Neil Warnock, wonderful character. I know some people don't necessarily agree with his style of football, and serves you right for Moscow. I love that. I just find, and just holding his head and staring at the ref, absolutely brilliant. He knows exactly what he's doing. And welcome back, Warnock, is all I will say. Quick plug before we talk about the Burnley banner. In fact, let's throw that up there. Just look at the ticker along the bottom. It says hit the thumbs up button. I'm sure many of you have done that, but hit it now if you haven't, to support the stream. To support the channel, you can do a super chat. I know we've had a fair few of them recently, which donates money to Jobless Me as of a few weeks' time, in fact. To really help, I'm hopefully going to start doing this 1-2 days a week full-time, and I'm building up my Patreon. So it really helped me if you subscribe on patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. $5 it is per month. Help me out. So underneath Netflix there. Everything goes ad-free on there as a podcast. We're going to do Patreon-only perks as we get more and more on there as well. Your name in the description, and as we grow, I'll be able to give more and more. Everything will still be up here on YouTube. Here we go. Let's talk about this Burnley business. So let me get this right, because I hate talking about all of this pseudo-political stuff here. So yesterday, a banner reading "White Lives Matter Burnley" was towed by an aeroplane over Etihad Stadium during their game against Manchester City. Now, I like to try and talk about everything in respect of what facts do I know. So first thing I'll say is I do not know who chartered that plane, who paid for that banner, whether they have any links to Burnley Football Club. It just says Burnley, doesn't say Burnley FC, whether they are Burnley fans. I do not know whether they are members of any kind of organisation that might be fairly unseemly. So we don't know who chartered the plane. It could just be one person, two people. So it would not be fair, given the information that we have, to make any accusations towards Burnley Football Club, well, or anyone really, when we don't know who did it. And again, as I come to all of these conversations, obviously we come from the point that judging anybody by their race is pretty dumb. Judging anybody by their gender is pretty dumb. By their height, whether they've got long hair. I don't like discrimination. Hopefully everyone agrees with that. Discrimination is pretty stupid. Judge people by what their ideologies are, what their character says, and are they a nice person or not? Okay. So the banner said "White Lives Matter Burnley," and my position is that we don't know who said it. So I'm not going to have a go at Burnley Football Club. In a statement, Burnley said that the banner in no way represents what the club stands for. They work fully with the authorities to identify those responsible and take appropriate action. That is a reasonable statement enough for Burnley to say, let's find out who it was. It might be nothing to do with our football club. That said, they used the match as a platform to do that. And let's be honest, someone said, I think Animation said in the chat, Sky didn't show it. This was journalists taking pictures of it and, people in the vicinity of the ground. Burnley strongly condemns the actions of those responsible for the offensive banner. We wish to make it clear that those responsible are not welcome at Turf Moor. We apologise unreservedly to the Premier League, to Manchester City, and to all those helping to promote Black Lives Matter. I can understand Burnley apologising for it. It's a hot potato at the moment, and I think the position a lot of people are taking at the moment is I don't want to get caught anywhere near this hot potato, so I'm just going to keep my nose clean, and even if I don't feel our football club has done anything wrong whatsoever, I'm still going to apologise for any offence caused or whatever. That appears to be what they have said. The airport at Blackpool, where it was chartered from, says, following an emergency review this morning, Blackpool Airport will suspend all banner towing operations. I mean, let's be honest, banners from planes and Arsene Wenger out ones, they're really lame anyway. I mean, for God's sake, who gets their heads together and decides they're going to do that anyway? That's my opinion. I'm not judging any political side. I'm just saying when it's been managers out. Other airports should also consider this approach in light of what has happened at Blackpool. Okay, so look, I come at this as usual, as I said, from the position of I don't like discrimination. I'm trying to always try and be balanced about things and see both sides. And a lot of people privately, and some people in the comments, I'm sure they'll be happy for me to put them up, have said that they have an issue just with the way that some of this is being presented, maybe with the name Black Lives Matters as well. We had a lot of comments saying that football had their in-house kick racism out of football, kick it out thing. For example, I don't think anyone would fly a plane saying, get racism into football. I think people have had issues with the name and tried to rail against it and things of that nature. I'll read the comments in just a second. What I will say, and please no one take me out of context on saying this, but said with no nuance, no context, and no knowledge of any events that have gone on, the terms Black Lives Matter and White Lives Matter are not racist or offensive. They're both true, aren't they? With no context at all. Yeah. Obviously, things are now being said in response to other things, but if you take the completely blinkered view, the statement, well, put it this way, if the statement White Lives Matters is offensive out of context, I'm saying, then the statement Black Lives Matters is offensive out of context as well. They kind of say the same thing. And I understand people saying all lives matter, and I understand people getting upset at that as well. So I can see everybody's point of view, and that is why this is such a hot potato. I've also had a lot of comments, and we'll read them out here in just a second, saying that I think what you've got is a lot of people that are finding it a little bit heavy-handed. They consider their behaviour and the behaviour of their families over generations or what have you to have been okay, and they don't consider themselves to be racist, and they feel that maybe they're getting this forced on them. That's what I'm getting from a lot of people as well. So look, I'm trying to be balanced. I'm trying to run a channel here. I don't want to be partisan right wing, partisan left wing. I want to be down the middle. So when I get the accusations, which I'll inevitably get, that I'm sitting on the fence, yes, I am. I'm trying to say both sides' point of view and trying to see both. Shall we read some comments? My God, it is a hot potato, and I don't agree with those people who say it's not a hot potato, because it's a tricky subject. And what I will say is sympathy is a good reflex sometimes. It's good to be sympathetic for people. However, sympathy alone doesn't solve nuanced technical problems. Discussion, listening, not screaming and shouting and accusing, and good reasoned thinking that's not pushed by horrible, crazy emotion, that solves nuanced, difficult problems. That's what I will say. Right, let's have a little look and see if there was any comments on this. Here we go. Bailey says, "Well, I agree that the banner was wrong to do due to the circumstances, and the true meaning is interesting to think that if the banner said Black Lives Matter Burnley, they would be praised." Okay, again, anyone's comments, I'm reading them out to show what people think. Please don't accuse me one way or the other. I'm trying to be down the middle here. Animation says, credit to Sky for not showing it. By the way, if Black Lives Matter have tried to pick a name that causes debate to further their cause, then okay. I can just see some people have some issues with that particular name. Seb says, devil's advocate, maybe the banner wasn't ordered by either Burnley fans or football fans. Could it be a journalist or media outlet who wants to stir up? My God. Who put the banner up there? Someone tell us. Animation says it was a Burnley fan, nothing to do with the club. Cyber Jeff says, and I'm getting this view, and we have to read this view. I'm not racist, but to be honest, I'm sick of hearing about Black Lives Matters. Chosen One says, so it's okay to say Black Lives Matter, but when someone says White Lives Matter, they're a racist. 3 whites were murdered in Reading. I guess their lives don't matter according to these people. And this is the difficult thing. Again, these are the views of comments, and I'm reading the comments out for anyone who wants to make a clip of me saying something out of context. Go ahead, you're an idiot if you do that anyway. Yes, taken to the nth degree, that argument has some validity. But as I said, nuanced, difficult problems, hot potatoes as I've called them, do not get solved by taking stuff to the nth degree and point scoring, do they? Dan says, not doing the stereotype of the northern white working class any good. No, absolutely not. Noel says, surprised Burnley fans could drum up the cost of the hire of the plane for fuel. Laugh out loud, only kidding. There we go. If we can't make laugh and a joke about stuff. Matt says, you know how the players take a knee before the game. What do you think the atmosphere reaction would be if fans were allowed in the stadium? That would be very, very interesting as a social experiment. And what would it be in different parts of the country as well? I'd be very interested to see that. Certainly, obviously, no pushback And look, I think we're speaking for everyone. There's no pushback against anti-discrimination stuff, but I think there is. We're seeing some people getting a little bit. What's the word? How can I put this kindly? A little bit kind of tired of the delivery of it, and the screaming and shouting the whole time. Sean, I think it's a Patreon, so thank you, Sean. Brilliant, thank you for your support. Just ignore this stunt. Don't give them the oxygen of publicity. Oliver says the Black Lives Matter is getting on my nerves. Media overhype it with the time. All lives matters. Not a lot said about the poor guys that died in Reading. Yeah, so lots and lots of differing views on that. Jeff says the players started this with the virtue signalling. Gone man, and we've had a couple of good sort of comments about this, and I've seen a few sort of people who would be, say, campaigners for anti-racism, and they've said no, it's not enough just to do. Okay, go on, go kneel down, stick a black square in your Instagram or whatever. I'll go back to what I said. Nuanced, difficult social problems take a lot of thought, a lot of energy, discussion and listening to change minds and stop the shouting. And I have been quite pleased to see some anti-racism campaigners saying the same thing and saying, look, it needs more than that and it needs discussion rather than what was just termed by Jeff there, virtue signalling. We'll have another joke here, says Dave. Doubtful it was Burnley fans. The banner was spelt correctly. There we go. Here's Jaggy. Respect to you, Ben, for openly discussing it. Too many people are scared of being attacked. Jaggy, thank you. I'm scared of being attacked as well. I'm trying to be centrist about this, not right, not National Front, not stupidly woke on the other side. I'm trying to go down the middle. But it's very scary. You've got a platform here. I've built up a platform. I don't want to get deplatformed for anything, but I know it's a difficult discussion for a lot of people to have. And I have to say, well, emotions are running so high on these things. I haven't ever seen much sensible progress being made in my life whilst two people are screaming at each other. It normally happens when the screaming stopped and everyone's calm and discussions are allowed to happen. So let's just put this up. Robin says, football is football, politics is politics. Shall we move on? Matthew says, how could Jesus be attacked? He could be nailed to a cross, Matthew. Let's not do Neil Warnock, racism and religion. Let's just end off this, because we have to reiterate, because people do attack, by saying that I believe that discrimination based on the color of your skin, your gender, your sexual orientation, the country you come from, your height, the length of your hair, how you speak, any of those, I think is stupid. Judge people by the content of their character. Didn't someone say that once? And what their ideologies are. So that's my position coming to this. And I know it's more complicated than just saying that, but it has to be reiterated. Right. Can we move on and talk about some football? Nathan Ferguson, excellent fullback for West Brom, is going to be leaving. We know we get contract Armageddon. Has it gone June the 20th? It has, hasn't it? We're like June the 22nd now. And obviously contracts come in June the 30th, aren't they? But most clubs where they haven't got agreements, the players are just done. Nathan Ferguson, good, young fullback, 19 years old. Deal expires, as most of these, on the 30th of June, It looks like, in fact, let's pop up that question. Dylan says, who do I think Ferguson will join? Surely, the deal looks so close with Crystal Palace with 6 months of the contract to go that you would think that's where Nathan Ferguson will end up there. But let me know what you think of how this has been handled. Obviously, when a player is allowed his contract to run down, most people do say, look, that's a mistake by the club. Obviously, Ferguson, I think he's only played this season, hasn't he? 30-odd games. So it's happened really, really quickly, hasn't it? So maybe we can't necessarily say West Brom got that totally wrong. Obviously, when players start playing well and there's a year to go, Ferguson's agent will be saying, look, keep your options open. Don't sign anything. You're playing well. West Brom up the top in the Championship. You can either get yourself a really good deal at West Brom, or could you get yourself a deal at Palace? And we understand that outlook from footballers, short career, make hay while the sun is shining. Matthew says, hope Palace try to sign him. I think that's it on Ferguson there. A couple of... Robin says, Leeds interested in Buendia. That would cost them a pretty penny, wouldn't it? Goodness me. Jamie on West Brom says, what do you think of Robinson from Wigan as West Brom at Infer? And Robinson is excellent, isn't he? Complete outlier in that position. Best progressive passer at Wigan, virtually from fullback. Robinson's very good, Jamie. So they could do a lot worse. They'll probably need Sky TV money, Premier League, to get him, though. But Robinson had agreed, I think it was nearly eight-figure fee, wasn't it, to go to Milan in the transfer window. So Dan, he's debunked it. Emi will not go to Leeds. You'd think Buendia, even in a depressed market, would be probably more than Norwich got for Maddison, given he's already played in the Premier League. So Robin knows. Let's go. Brentford will bump West Brom for promotion. Matthew Lumsden, not as good as Reece James, though. No, Reece James was a joke, wasn't he? Absolutely ridiculous. We've had a few players loaned down to the Championship where it's just like, this is not fair. He's way too good for this. Right, before we do Q&A on here properly, League Two playoffs were last night. I'm sure lots of you watched a fair amount of that. Incredible stuff. Those playoffs always deliver, don't they? I must say, just quickly, Brighton and Leicester going live in about 5 minutes. So I'm sure my numbers will drop off when that all happens. Stay loyal, stay in the stream. So Exeter needed extra time to beat Colchester, who led 1-0 from the first leg. Exeter went 2-0 up. Colchester got it back to 2-2 on 78. Extra time, decisive goal. Ryan Bowman, 111 minutes. Exeter go to Wembley, not quite Wembley as we know it for playoffs, but nonetheless, they go there. Well done, Exeter, who did beat my team, Ipswich, in the EFL Leasing Trophy. How the mighty have fallen. There we go. And in the other game, even better, Northampton 2-0 down and going away. I have to look at my playoff stats to see if anyone's overturned a 2-0 deficit from the first game. I know Derby overturned a 2-0 deficit last year, but it was only 1-0 from the first game, wasn't it? A 3-0 away win, Callum Morton with 2 goals. Keith Curle apparently showing his players the 89 movie about Arsenal's It's Up for Grabs Now championship win at Liverpool. So Northampton Exeter in the playoff final for League Two, Monday 29th. League One up on July the 3rd. Who have we got? Remind me someone. Animation, help me. Oxford and Pompey, Wickham and Fleetwood. Animation. Let's do questions. Let's do it. Please hit the thumbs up button now. Super chat if you want to support the channel. All stuff on Patreon ad-free. Will Hernandez play at all in the Premier? Are you talking about Pablo or Arnel? If it's Pablo, possibly, but not 90 minutes a game. Robin, I know you are happy, Ben, seeing Warnock back. Of course I'm happy seeing Warnock. I need to see some of this. I need to see him ranting and raving on the touchline. Dan, Colchester, sad face. Yes, John McGreal, ex-Ipswich player there. Frank Nouble and Dean Gherkin, ex-Ipswich players, would have been the most local games at Ipswich next season, but not to be. Chosen One. If Fulham beat Leeds on Saturday, I think Leeds will bottle it. Who do you support, Chosen One? I bet he says Leeds after that. Big game. We'll do the Championship preview on Thursday. No doubt. Matthew says, looking forward to League One next week. If they're as good as the League Two, playoffs never let you down, do they? Craig says, Cheltenham was shocking. The third goal conceded. You struggle to see in non-league. Craig, I did not watch the game. I did my stream. I watched a bit of Colchester. I'll have to take your word for it there, but a hell of a comeback. Nick says, no Derby. Colchester are out. Bye-bye. Colchester. Robin says, can you imagine Fleetwood in the Championship? Incredible. Would Fleetwood be classed as smaller than Yeovil? Would they be the smallest club ever to get into the Championship? Robin, I hate to break this to you. Fleetwood are actually quite good. I keep saying this. I saw Fleetwood beat Ipswich at Portman Road. Very impressed. Played through the first where they could change the system. At Glen Whelan playing, so I think they've got some wages from a League One point of view. But there we go. Dan says, Northampton got through. Come on, Northampton. Yeah, I guess living here in Bedfordshire, I'll be more happy if Northampton are up than Exeter, let's just say. Matthew says Pompey, Oxford will be good. Both of those games will be good. Pompey, Oxford will probably be the more matched, better game of football. Wickham might stick it a little bit more in the mixer, but as I've said, I've already advocated Mr. Neil Warnock. So Matthew says, I did say Leeds will bottle it, but I don't believe it yet. But I will happily come and sit on the internet and tell you I was wrong if they don't do it. But I think they should be fine. Chosen One says, I'm a Chelsea supporter. Wow. But I want Leeds back in the Prem. God, Chelsea Leeds, they're normally tasty, aren't they? Going back to 1970. Dan says, still got a derby with Peterborough. It's a fair distance from Ipswich, but there we go. And Robin says, Fleetwood, amazing story of success in modern times. Yeah, small little club. I think when they did play at Ipswich, they had something like 63 fans there or something. It was on a Tuesday night, and it's a 5-hour journey. So, Animation says, how did Fosu and Baptiste do versus Fulham? Okay. Baptiste came on as a sub, so he didn't do a lot, but I thought Fosu was good. He rotated with the rest of the front three. I mean, look, it must be fun to play up front with Ben Rama and Watkins. Obviously, when Mbeumo has finished his COVID isolation, Fosu will be back out of the team. But nice to see the Brentford recruitment working that way. Again, Dan says, I hope Oxford to the Championship would be great. Fingers crossed we can go. Yeah, can they just put that stadium just unsettles me. Put a blooming stand behind the goal. Mike asks, will Leeds be the bridesmaids only again and get jilted at the altar? I don't think so, Mike. I think they'll be okay. I just think what Leeds fans like to do is they imagine the worst case scenario and then they say it themselves. So if it does happen, then they said it already, and it's not someone else saying it to them. Noel says Bellingham to Dortmund, 20 million plus several add-ons. I would think several, probably 8 digits worth of add-ons in terms of sell-ons and England caps and Dortmund appearances. Blues board bottle a sale again. You don't think that's enough, Noel? I mean, look, it's going to be a depressed market as well as a buyer's market, so Dortmund should be able to steam in there. But surely the second Dortmund pull in £1 zillion for Jadon Sancho, that price can go up, can't it? Trillian needs to play hardball with Dortmund. If Boro go down, will Warnock stay? Yeah, probably, and then get them promoted from League One. He wants to get 1,000 games and another promotion, doesn't he? Warnock. Colin says, is Charlton's whole squad worth 67 million? No idea where they're going to get the money to pay off the debt. Are they 67 million in debt? Remember, often these debts are just paper debts, aren't they? That will literally never be repaid and just passed on from owner to owner. But it doesn't help that number growing and growing. Interest payments get ridiculous as well. Norwich City Central, I went on that channel. Go and subscribe there the other day. Talked to Lewis. Who's most likely to get relegated from the Championship? Can't see it being Boro. Now, Luton and Barnsley odds on at the moment. I'll be happy to say if they stick another 4 or 5 points on over the next 3 games, that might change. But those two look favourites at the moment. Probably Hull in disarray. Go on The Athletic and read that crazy piece about Hull today. Matthew says, Warnock in League One would be unstoppable. Of course he would, wouldn't he? If only Ipswich were unstoppable, hey? Love Oxford. Had amazing success on Football Manager 19 with them. Won the Europa Cup, League Cup with them. Maybe you should be a football manager if you're capable of doing that, Dan. How is League One getting back to 24 teams in the absence of Bury? I guess they do something with the National League, do they? Extra promotion? I don't know. You'd assume they'd have that sorted out. I was going to take Dylan's question. Animation. Who do I think will be relegated from Prem? I think Bournemouth gone after watching them versus Palace. I give the same answer every time with all due respect to the fans of these clubs. For the most people to watch my videos next season, West Ham, Aston Villa and Norwich would be beneficial to my channel. But hey, may the best team win. Perhaps Bournemouth and Brighton might not be. But there you go, Brighton, fairly big club, aren't they? Thoughts on Danny Loader being linked with Manchester United and Wolves? I have to look into that. Is that another Oxford one? Animation? Not overly familiar. Mike is a Boro fan. Convinced Warnock will keep you up. I think most people are based on his pedigree. Noel says Hull Defo. We're talking about relegation there. Matthew, could this next game week decide how promotion, I assume it means how promotion goes in the Championship, possibly. We also could get the ultimate squidge, couldn't we? If Brentford can beat West Brom and Fulham can beat Leeds, we actually might get a title race. It looked like just a case of, someone well ahead in a race, and can they just keep enough ahead and not do a Devon lock? But hey, could be it could be different if those two results swing that way. Trevor, Anthony Knockout been a big disappointment this season. Yeah, it seems that Chris Hughton, who was summarising actually, and he wouldn't say this on TV, but Chris Hughton was very good at building his attacking progress around Knockout and indulging his Gallic tendencies, let's just say. Whereas Parker is all about his philosophy, isn't he? And that doesn't mean like some managers, like say Warnock with Tarab, where it's like, look, give him the ball. I don't care. Give him the ball. I don't care if there's two men on him. Give him the ball 20, 30 times in a game and he'll win us the game. So what was the Hull article in The Athletic, Ben? Matthew, if you DM me on Twitter, I will facilitate you with reading that, but I will say no more because I don't want to get in trouble with The Athletic. Robin says Norwich, Villa, Bournemouth. He doesn't think West Ham are going down. Seb, did you see the BBC documentary, The Three Musketeers? Is the story of France 98, Beckham, Zidane, and Ronaldo? Worth a watch on iPlayer. Lovely. That sounds great, Seb. One of my favourite World Cup is 1990 because I was falling in love with football then. But I really did love France 98. I was 16 or just turning 16 and just leaving school in 98. And I loved that. And we all went. We were allowed to go around our friends and watch the games. Oh, it was fantastic. And England actually had a good team. But then you look at either coming up against France, the home nation with Zidane and Henry and that ridiculous back five, or you never know, history might have been different and Ronaldo might have been fit in the final. That was a pretty hot Brazil team as well. Villa look doomed, says Craig. Desperately needs something at Newcastle. Do us a favour, Brucey. Well, he didn't do you a favour getting up when he was manager there, did he? But who should get Championship Manager of the Season, says Robin. Blackburn, question mark. Yeah, we've had this discussion a fair bit, as in, does, take Scott Parker at Fulham being in third place, does Nottingham Forest being fifth or Blackburn being seventh represent a bigger achievement than that? Possibly does. It just so difficult with the Championship because the Holy Grail is promotion and there are 6 promotion places and that normally warps the view, doesn't it? Dan says there only one relegation from League Two and the normal 2 going up. I see. Matthew says Aidan Flint with Warnock will mean goals. Well, sadly, Matthew, Neil Warnock signed Aidan Flint for Cardiff at the start of the season, didn't he? So I'm sure he would love to have Aidan Flint at Boro. Maybe we'll try and get him on loan, but no, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm sure Warnock will. Who have they got there? Ayala, big centre half. I'm sure, look, Warnock's never failed to manage to produce goals out of a squad of footballers, has he? So I'm sure he'll get the job done. Right. Thank you, everybody. Good, fun stream tonight. Thank you for your views on the return of the master. Warnock out. Woodgate out, Warnock in. Thank you for your comments on that. Thank you for your patience in the Burnley banner thing. Thank you for the comments applauding me for talking about it and trying to understand both sides and not just taking one side and screaming at the other, which just doesn't help, does it? I hope everybody understands my view on that. And what I would urge you to do, I'm happy to discuss socio-political issues with anyone, but I will do it privately. And you can DM me on Twitter. I would rather that than this slanging things that take place on Twitter and people want to shame people and get them to lose their jobs because they disagree with them. Have a conversation. DM them, WhatsApp them, pick up the phone, for God's sake. When did we get this touchy with each other? Nathan Ferguson out from West Brom, and we talked about the League Two playoff drama. So thank you, everybody. As usual, let me know if you're a Patreon, if you're okay with this. I'm putting them up as podcasts now on Patreon. Just a few people said the download was too much, but obviously that will be ad-free because it's not on YouTube. So please, I would love you, if you're watching this video, to go and subscribe on Patreon. We're all football fans here. We're all part of a kind of team discussing the news. I would love to be able to do it full-time, but I need your help, and I'd be ever so grateful for it. Let's do some shout-outs. Matthew, Thank you. Great comments all the way through. Robin says, super Barik. I don't know what that means, Robin. Chosen One says, left-wing people don't like having conversations, but the only way, if you're centrist or if you're right, you need to have conversations. John Bob says, keep the dialogue happening. It's not enough to say, and I'm not picking on you, Chosen One, because you come up with loads of good stuff on the comments, but the only way you're good, if you disagree with a left, maybe you're talking about a radically left-wing person, you've got to talk to them. You've got to talk to them. Yelling at them and calling them this, that, and the other. And I know they're doing the opposite. Doesn't help. Sorry. I know we're getting very political here. Craig says, great stuff again. Any more shout-outs here? John Bob, morning from Australia, who says, come on, baggies. I'm sure it's the wee small lads in Australia. Seb says, cheers, mate. Sensible words about the banner. Sympathy. Trying to take what happened to good old centrist view. Right-wing people are also the same. Called horseshoe theory. Yes, they are, Dan. I totally agree. And just as long as we agree that people shouting from one side emotionally at the other side, whichever way round it is, does not help. It does not help in the slightest. And I tell you what, I'm getting really political now. If any political party can take that centre ground, they are going to absolutely clean up with all the people who are fed up of reading social media every day. Chosen One says, I've tried having conversations. They don't want to listen. I get it, man. I get it. It's a slow progress when we're talking about thoughts and ideologies. All I would say, and no one asked for my advice, I'm just saying how I feel. All I would say is if we all look after number one and we don't behave in a discriminatory way and we don't get emotional and shout and, try and shame people and defame people and argue ridiculously, if everyone did that, everything would be okay. And I know it's very hard to not bite in the face of somebody doing it to you. There we go. Robert says, I give you a job as a diplomat. Thank you, Robert. Mike says, we should talk to each other. Well, apart from Trump, sorry, I couldn't help myself. There you go. Mike, DM me. If anyone wants to talk, let's just have sensible conversations. And I know a lot of people are going to WhatsApp because they're scared to give their views on social media because they don't want a barrage of hatred, right, left, wherever. Dan says, centrism died 10 years ago, sadly. Being a centrist myself, it being a sad time. What happened to the old classical liberal and libertarians? They just don't seem to exist. They get dragged left and right, don't they? Chosen One, I agree. Cheers, mate. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And look, there are a growing number of people who are not screaming from the right, not screaming from the left, who are fed up with this. They're absolutely fed up. And they probably are centrist. And I will say as well, it's possible for a left-wing guy to say something that I really agree with. It's possibly for a right-wing guy to say something that I really agree with. I think people they stick their their flag in the sand and they then can't disagree with anything someone says. Just listen to the person, listen to each argument and the ideology. There we go. Sean, content of their character, Martin Luther King Jr. and that. The same people who should be in agreement with Dr. King are now doing the exact opposite, aren't they? Noel says, selfish people everywhere. Sorry, this has got very socio-political, but it's nice that I'm getting a sensible dialogue in this. John Bob, people losing their job for political views is too much to take, though. And yes, as someone who's built up nearly 10,000 subscribers here, I'm not going to give any extreme political views. Why would I risk what I've built up? It's scary for people. So chat about it, talk, do it privately if you need to. Animation says James Justin has just had a howler. Dan says, I had to make my Twitter private because of the pylons. That's what it is, screaming and shouting, emotional nonsense, pylons. Hopefully, and the social media companies need to take some responsibility with this sort of thing and not let people, whatever their persuasion is, just be complete pricks and jerks on social media. And that's left, right and centre, believe you me. Right, guys, I'm so sorry. This is a football channel, but we went down that rabbit hole. And I like to think anyone can read up that comment thread and see that we've tried to be nice and sensible, and not from a political view, but I'm trying to stay central here for the sake of my building up my channel. Let's just say, Craig, back to football. Brighton just had a penalty save. There you go. Always back to football. Then so it should be. Go and check out Adam Webster, ex-Ipswich player, playing for Brighton there. We didn't cash in on him. Anyway, thank you everybody for listening. Sorry we got a bit sidetracked at the end. Like I say, please feel free to DM me on Twitter, and we'll have a sensible discussion. Yeah, no, there you go. Social media companies don't care. Hits equals cash. What would Twitter do if Trump went elsewhere? Put it that way. There you go. Shout out to John, who's in the Southern Hemisphere. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for a great debate. It's okay. There are people feeling the same way about the political climate as it seems like a fair few fed up people are here as well. Right, thank you. We'll be back with the football. I think I'm going to do Sheffield United, Man United tomorrow, unless there's big news, in which case we'll focus on that. Good evening to you too, Seb. Shout out there. And I'll see you all again soon. Thank you very much for watching. Over and out.